In the last video, we took raw public data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and built this chart from scratch using Python's polars and Plotnine libraries. It's clean, the facets are readable, the lines are clear. From a technical standpoint, it does everything right. But there is a problem, and it's sitting right at the top of the chart. Before we dig in, if this kind of content is useful to you, subscribing is the best way to keep up with the new videos. I'll be publishing more content focused on practical Python skills for business and marketing professionals. And if you want to go deeper, check out the companion book, Getting Started with Python on Windows 11. The link is in the description. So let's look at that problem. The title says, a noticeable increase for most CPI indexes was observed after 2020. That's not a chart title. That's a caption describing what you can already see with your own eyes. It tells the viewer what the chart contains. It doesn't tell them what to think about it. When a chart doesn't commit to a conclusion, the viewer has to supply one on their own. In a business context, a meeting, a report, a shared dashboard, different viewers will supply different conclusions. That ambiguity isn't neutral. It costs you the argument you were trying to make. There are 3 books I come back to regularly on this topic. Storytelling with Data by Cole Knaflic, Strategic Storytelling by Dave McKinsey, and Data Story by Nancy Duarte. They come from different backgrounds: data visualization, management consulting, and presentation design, but they land in exactly the same place on this question. Knaflic calls it, so what? McKinsey calls it the resolution, the answer the data provides to the question you raised. Duarte calls it the big idea. The labels differ, the principle is identical. The most important text on a chart should carry the insight, not just describe the data. One thing to note, Duarte's framework places the big idea at the slide level, where the slide title carries the argument, and the chart is the evidence on that slide. That works well in a presentation where the slide and the chart travel together. But charts often get reused. They get copied into other decks, dropped into reports, shared as standalone images. When that happens, the slide title stays behind and the chart is on its own. And that's why I prefer to place the observation inside the chart itself, in the chart title, not on the slide. So let's look at what we're working with. A noticeable increase for most CPI indexes was observed after 2020. This title is passive. It hedges most indexes, not all. It describes a visual pattern without naming what it means. And honestly, writing a stronger title is hard. This is the default because it feels safe. It makes no claim that can be challenged. A descriptive title has one thing going for it. It's never wrong. CPI by category can't be disputed. A noticeable increase was observed, can't be disputed. You're reporting just what's visible. But safe isn't the same as useful. Your audience doesn't need you to describe what they can see. They need you to tell them what it means. An insight title commits to a point of view. Something like, the steepest post-2020 price increases weren't in food or housing. Transportation rose 37%. That title invites scrutiny. A viewer might push back. That's the point. A title that can be challenged is a title that's actually saying something. The discomfort of committing to a position is precisely what makes the title useful to your audience. Now, let's look at the anatomy of a well-constructed chart. There are 4 text elements, and each one has a specific job. When you understand the jobs, the writing gets easier. The title states the insight. One sentence, one committed specific observation. This is the one thing you want your viewer to take away if they look at nothing else. The subtitle provides the context that earns the reader's trust. This is where you put the technical provenance, geographic scope, the population the data covers, whether the series is seasonally adjusted, and the base year of an index, if that's what we're measuring against. For our chart, that's U.S. city average, all urban consumers, not seasonally adjusted, base period 1982 to 1984, equal to 100. The subtitle doesn't make an argument. It answers the question, how do I know this data is credible? The panel labels, what Plotnine calls strip text, are navigational. In this chart, they're also doing double duty. Because we have one line per panel, they replace the need for a legend entirely. Each panel is self-labeling. Their primary job is to help the viewer find the evidence that supports the title's argument. They label each small multiple so you can scan and locate the category you care about. Legends are a related topic, and we'll save that for another video. The caption handles provenance, data source, series identifiers, date range, everything a viewer would need to find this data themselves, verify your work, or reproduce the chart. For a public data set like this one, we've got the source as the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, we've identified the series that we're using, and we've provided a URL. This is the element most people actually skip. Adding it takes only about 30 seconds, and it makes the chart citable. Together, these four elements make a chart self-contained. The title argues, the subtitle contextualizes, the panel labels navigate, and the caption documents. A viewer who has never seen your presentation or who encounters this chart months later in a different report has everything they need. Let's put the whole thing together. I'll show you the complete code first, and then we'll walk through the parts that matter most. The three string variables at the top are where all the text lives: title, subtitle, and caption. Keeping them separate from the plot call makes them easy to find and edit without touching the chart code. A couple of things worth pointing out in these strings. In the title, you'll notice I have a backslash and a quote before the T in the word weren't. That's an escape character. It tells Python that the apostrophe is part of the string and not the closing quote. Without it, Python would read the apostrophe as the end of the string, and this would throw a syntax error. In the caption, we have \n. This is another escape character. This one inserts a new line. That's what breaks the caption across 3 lines. Without these escape characters, the entire caption would render as a single line. These 2 escape characters are fairly common, and you'll encounter them working with strings. One other worth knowing, especially on Windows, is the double backslash. And this represents literally the backslash. That comes up whenever you're working with file paths, and, for example, if you've got users name documents. We'll see this in a future video when we start reading and writing files. The labs function is where the strings get assigned to their positions on the chart: title, subtitle, caption, and the y-axis label. Here, in the title, we're using the textwrap.fill function and setting the width equal to 50. And this is to control where the line breaks are for this long string of text. Without it, a long title renders as a single line that runs past the end of the chart. We could have applied the textwrap.fill function up in the variable assignment instead. Either approach works. My recommendation is to pick one and be consistent across your notebooks. Mixing the 2 styles will make your code harder to read over time. Note that the caption is easy to overlook as a labs argument. It's not something people use by default, but it's been there all along, and I encourage you to use it. Before we get down to the theme, 2 other functions in this chart are worth a quick reminder. The facet wrap is what splits the chart into 10 individual panels, 1 per CPI category. The nRow equals 2 argument arranges them into 2 rows, and the scales equals free y tells each panel to use its own y-axis scale. The last part is important here, because each category has a different index range. Locking them to a shared scale would make the smaller categories nearly unreadable. We're using the theme line draw to set the overall visual style of the chart. This gives us a white background, the grid lines, the panel borders. It's a base theme, which means it needs to come before any theme customizations. If you put the theme before theme line draw, then the base theme will override your customizations. Now let's walk through each parameter in the theme call. We have the figure size equal to the tuple 12 and 6. This sets the overall dimensions in the chart in inches, 12 wide by 6 tall. The DPI equals 150 sets the resolution, and together these control how the chart renders both on screen and when saved to a file. The plot title argument is using the element text function, and here we can set the size and the line spacing. The line spacing adds a small amount of space between lines when the title wraps, and without it, wrapped lines sit too close together, in my opinion. We're using the plot title position set equal to plot. This anchors the title and subtitle to the full figure width rather than just the panel area. It moves both elements together. Without it, the title and subtitle align to the inner plot area, which looks misaligned when your y-axis labels take up horizontal space. We're setting axis title X to a blank element. This removes the x-axis label entirely. In this case, the x-axis is a date range, and that's self-evident from the tick labels. An axis title would just add clutter. Finally, we're also setting the line spacing equal to 1.1 for the plot caption. This applies the same spacing logic to the caption, and because our caption spans 3 lines, without this, the lines would sit too tight together. Again, this is a stylistic choice. We're keeping the rest of the defaults here to keep the code manageable, but Plotnine offers a number of different theme elements that you can adjust. So here we go. Same data, same chart structure, same 10 categories, and 20 years plus of monthly readings. The only thing that changed was the text. The title now makes a specific data-backed argument, the subtitle earns trust, the panel labels navigate, and the caption documents. That's the framework, and the theme parameters we covered give you control over all of it in Plotnine. If this framework was useful, consider subscribing to the channel. New videos on Python for business and data work drop regularly, and if you want to go deeper, the companion book Getting Started with Python on Windows 11 covers this and more, with links in the description.